Good afternoon. This is the Elliott Wave daily update for the S&P 500 being recorded on Thursday, October the 9th at 2:20 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I am here on the daily chart because I have once again rearranged the count uh, and kind of brought things back down to the degree level or back up to the degree level where I had them prior to yesterday's changes. So just to give a quick review, um, we are still within the minor fifth wave going up, and we've completed uh, minute waves one and two and three. I have put three in place today, and I'll go over that in just a moment. So the internal on that would be within minute wave three, we have minuet one, two, three, and four. And I had moved this up, I believe, to there, and then put this minuet wave four here. I'm putting this fifth wave into place, which still is ending up being a diagonal, but it's kind of the whole pattern instead of the last fifth. So let me just drop this down and put it on the hourly chart, and we get to take a look inside this particular move. So here we have a minuet wave four, and then one, two, three, four, and then the diagonal here. One, two, three, four, and five. And so I did mark it as such, and I need to bring it down to the 15 minutes so we can get up inside. So I put the five, and the three all into place there. And as it completed the three up, and it got up to let me just see when that was on yesterday, actually, and in Globex, where it reached 68.1225. And that ended up being the high as we started down, and then we finished one, two, three, four, and five, and I'm putting that sub-minuet wave one there of likely what will turn into uh, minuet wave A of minute wave four. So again, we're back to counting that minute fourth wave. And so this didn't take as long as I thought it would. It didn't get up to these higher levels. And for whatever the reason, the market did kind of cut out and just really started to come down. And it came down in five on my count. And I can kind of open that up and we can look inside. There was the first five. That was the one, A, B, C, two, and then one, two, three, four. How did I get that before? One, two, three. Got to be up here. One, two, three, four, five of three, and then four, and then one, two, three, four, five again for wave one. So, and then actually A, B, one, two, three, four. We had a little bit more to go. And our markers to finish wave two, that would be. And then our markers are 382 has been exceeded. So it pushes us up to the resistance. It's likely going to come on the 50-minute 50, which is 67.83. And then more likely we're going to get to that next level, which is 50% retracement. That's 67.86. And also the 15-minute 200 sits right there at 86. We also have to include the possibility we'll get up to 0.618. It's a wave two. And a wave two can actually take all of this back. And it just cannot exceed that level. But 618 is 67.92. And I think that'll be complete. And then we start to come down. Now, again, government's still close. So we're not getting any uh, data, economic data from the government agencies that produce that data. And same thing kind of happened today in terms of uh, we actually had sort of some conference, some banking conference going somewhere where all the Fed people were. And so that's been going on all day and basically not hearing a word on the tape as to what maybe is being said about interest rates or things, from the Fed. So I'm kind of putting that back up on the shelf, so to speak. And tomorrow, we likely are going to get consumer sentiment. and that's going to come out at 10 a.m. And then with the monthly U.S. federal budget, no, that's not going to happen because it's a federal report and they're shut down. So, but we will have, I guess, another banking conference. But tomorrow, Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee will be giving the opening remarks, and that's at 9:45 a.m. Again, not really receiving anything over the news wires that would affect the markets in terms of things that are being discussed or said by these Fed governors and presidents. So I believe would just kind of be in the throes of the expiration. Now, here's something interesting because what came alive today was what kept AMD alive the last 2 days and partially today, and that is NVIDIA. Now, I happen to carry a chart on NVIDIA, and I know it is a member of the S&P, so I just want to go out to my monthly maximum chart. Actually, I don't even need to do that. Let me just try my daily. I think I need my weekly. And let me go one more. This is interesting. So here we have, oh, come on, because it's like I gotta screw around with it. This is my weekly. So this data goes back to 2020 in October, where we started to this would have been minor one, minor two underneath there. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for minor three, ABC for minor four. And so we've been in a minor fifth wave, which actually is kind of in its finishing stages because we have minute 1, 2, 3, and minute four will actually go right there. I just need to slip it down there and put it on there. And then what I did is I connected the fibs for the fifth wave. And 100% is 190.52. We got up to 195.30. And so the next level up is going to be, that's interesting that it came out like that on a smaller time frame. I think it was a little bit different. Yeah. No, it does 190, which is fine. So exceeding that, it doesn't look like it's finished. It looks like it's within this small fifth wave. It's 1, 2, 3. And we have a 4 and a 5. So our next level up is 200 and 204 to 207 to be exact to put in this fifth wave and then this fifth wave. And what's going to sit above it, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back out to my long-term chart and see what I have sitting up there. But we'd be putting in this fifth wave along with this fifth wave. So, and that minor fifth wave, minor five would be 3.618 times the length of minor one at 204.97. That could complete it, and it also in turn would complete this smaller fifth wave. So what we have is 1, 2, 3. We maybe get a little bit of a pullback, possibly overnight, and then we rally back up, or just an indistinguishable pullback, right? So if I bring it all the way down and put it back on, let's just say the 1 hour chart, and we're kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the three. We're already coming back down off of that high at 195. So I think we continue to find some support right there at 190, 190.02. So that's pretty even. And I don't think we should be dipping too far. That looks like a previous fourth, and so does that. So we got a couple of levels where the market could come back into. I wouldn't think we'd want to come all the way back down to 185 before we were to go up. So let's say 190, 189, 88 possibly, and then we rally back up. Now that's NVIDIA. And so that would have an effect tomorrow because tomorrow, of course, is our weekly expiration. And that kind of tosses us back out into next week where we have the monthly expiration. So, and that is on the 17th. And then on October the 14th, we start. So next week, we also start earnings. And first up has now been relegated to the banks. So most of the time we have Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, All the big major banks, they come out first, and then we get a lot of the other second tier, I guess you would call it, and then so on and forth all the way down. And as far as the Max 7 begins, I think we don't have anything actually booked, but I think we have to wait until like the 22nd of October. Um, and I think that's going to be Tesla. And then I think we have Apple and Amazon towards the end of the month. We have Meta and Google also coming around that like in between those two, the 22nd and the end of the month. So again, I hopefully we'll get those dates pretty quickly. But we're moving into earnings next week. And so it's going to get interesting because if we go by the book saying everybody feeling that all earnings always just blow the doors off and they're always positive, they're always this, it's like, well, that's because we've been in a bull market, but that's all been changing. And not necessarily that the overall larger picture continues to remain a little bit bullish for a little bit longer, at least through year end, but we need to get through the earnings. And primarily, I believe that they're going to begin at least to show us some downside because I continue to suggest, or even in the AI, even that I'm using the algorithms, suggesting that we're going to get a little bit of a downturn. Nothing major, but we're going to get a downturn. And again, being that this is minute wave three, we're going to come back down to the fourth wave of one lesser degree. Guess what? That puts us back at that level. But because we're raising the levels a little bit, that 0.236 comes in at 64.12. Now, yep, I get it. We're trading at between 67.80, 67.80 to 6,800. And so that would seem like, oh, that's such a big drop, but it really isn't when we put it in perspective, a little bit different. It really isn't. And as a matter of fact, I need to pull over. Um, I don't know what happened to them. It might be there's my right tails, which I think eventually are going to be hit by the end of the year. That's why I leave them this color, and would be for minute wave five. And my left tail somehow did not show up here. But as I put them on, they are 6460 and 6120. So, and what we're really measuring there on the tails is what is the potential or the probability that we'll get a 5% correction. So I need to rework those numbers because they were based on this level being the high, and now we've added to it and we've gotten up to 6802 or 6803. So I need to rerun those numbers and to get my 5% pullback. And so, but I think it's going to be above 6460. And so we're really not even looking at it. I mean, we've got that fourth wave at 6626. We've got the daily 50 at 6571. Then here's the previous fourth. So that level brings us into the previous fourth. So even if I'm going to be looking at the 5% or the 10%, that's the two probabilities that the algorithm ran. What are the potential for a 5% pullback? What is the potential for or the probability of a 5% pullback or a probability of a 10% pullback? And that 10% with the market, with that minute third wave being at 67.67, um, came in at 61.20. And so that is below all this. And now we're seeing with this additional boost that we got that even the 382 is 61.66. And the bottom of the previous fourth is 63.71, 72. And so I'm thinking that's really to me pretty much it. At 64.12, 63.72. And I think the 10% is going to come somewhere in here maybe to equal that 382. So I think these are possible, and we're going to have to just track it, and we're just going to find out what will be or not be. So again, just dropping it down to that 15-minute chart. What am I looking at for tomorrow? Um, Again, expiration. And what I wanted to start to say before was that the market we'll see again tomorrow to see how our gamma levels line up. But this whole period of time has been so call heavy. So, and what I mean by that is like they're just all packing it up with calls and looking for this major move at the end of the year. And that actually is still in place because even I'm looking for something, looking for a surge, but we need to get through this fourth wave. So, how much of it is in October? How much of it is lined up for expiring tomorrow will depend on what actually the market is going to do as to what levels in these 500 stocks that are the components of the S&P 500. So, and particularly, of course, it's going to be the Mag 7. It's going to be the top 7 or the top 10, and most of those are tech stocks. And what's been in the news this week, Advanced Micro Devices and NVIDIA, the major in the news. We've seen Tesla in the news. We've seen some of the other players in the news. And we've seen major moves during this past week in Apple and to pretty much everything on the board. And we saw some selling today, and now we just got to wait to see where our gamma levels are going to come in tomorrow, and what changes are happening there, and then again where all these levels are going to be on these individual stocks. So where the balance of the calls are sitting, where puts are sitting, and again, if they're call heavy, then any downside could get exasperated because of just everybody holding long. And it also can suggest that to depend on who's holding that long position. And if we have larger trading firms that are sitting long in a particular area, they may decide to push things around. Not necessarily, I won't want to call it manipulation, but they're going to get the close that they want to get. And so I would be looking at stocks like Apple, AMD, Amazon, Broadcom, Google, Intel, yeah, maybe, but Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, NVIDIA. Those are the biggies that I think that have that cap weighting in these indexes that could push it, that could push the price of the index. Again, today, I just want to take a double look at what we had in terms of, again, here's the NASDAQ, 493,000, under 500,000, when normally our normal, and I put quotes around that, trading range or volume range is between 500 and 700,000. And so we're still coming in a little bit light of all of that. The S&P 1.3 million, more towards its average. Its average has been like 1.2 to 1.7 as well. And so we're kind of inside the average, but still you would consider it a little bit light. Um, so tomorrow I'm going to be very interested to where the gamma levels are going to come in, and then we'll be able to have a cleaner picture of what our day may look like. But again, just using my fibs and using the wave pattern, I think that we could finish up here and then start to head lower again. Now, the severity of the drop, again, I think is going to come wrapping itself around what may be happening gamma-wise. Again, because it's expiration. If we break them in succession like we kind of did today and then recovered them today, but they broke and you saw what happened, and the recovering back, you saw what happened. So I think we would get that same type of a deal. So we're going to have to wait really till tomorrow. And we might get both. We might end up a little bit, and then they just bring it all the way back down again. And the start of a third wave down. Okay, so that's going to be it for right now. And the next update will be tomorrow morning.